I never thought I would feel lonely in a house that once felt so full. This is the same house where I heard his first cry, the same kitchen where I packed his school lunches, the same door I watched him walk out of, smiling, on his wedding day. I raised my son alone. His father left when he was still a baby, and from that day on, it was just the two of us. I believed love was enough. I believed if I gave him everything I had, he would always remember me. But marriage changes people. Sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once. This is the story of how my son, the boy I lived for, slowly forgot I was even there. When my son was born, the world became very small. It was just me, him, and the sound of his breathing at night. I worked long hours, sometimes 2 jobs, sometimes with tired hands and an aching back. But every time I came home, he ran to me like I was the best thing he had ever seen. That made everything worth it. I never remarried. People asked me why. I always smiled and said I was too busy. The truth was, I did not want to bring confusion into his life. I wanted him to feel safe. I wanted him to feel chosen. We grew up together. When he fell, I lifted him. When he cried, I held him until he slept again. I learned to fix broken toys, broken buttons, and sometimes broken hearts. There were nights when I sat on the edge of his bed, watching him sleep. I would whisper promises to him, that I would always be there, that I would never leave. Years passed. He became taller than me, stronger, quieter, but he still called me every day. Even after he moved out for work, he called. Sometimes just to ask what I cooked, sometimes to complain about traffic, sometimes just to say goodnight. That was when he met her. At first, I was happy. I truly was. I prayed for him to find love. I wanted him to have what I never had. When he told me about her, his eyes lit up. I listened carefully. I asked questions. I tried to be supportive. I met her a few months later. She was polite, quiet, a little distant. I told myself not to judge. Everyone needs time. The wedding happened quickly. Too quickly, maybe. But I said nothing. On the morning of his wedding, I stood in the kitchen alone. I made tea, but forgot to drink it. I watched the clock and remembered the day I sent him to school for the first time. He hugged me before leaving, just a quick hug. He said, "I'll call you later, Ma." I smiled and waved. That was the last time things felt normal. After the wedding, the calls slowed down. At first, I understood. New life, new responsibilities. I waited. I did not complain. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. When I called him, he sounded busy, distracted. "I'll call you back," he would say. Sometimes he did. Most times he did not. I stopped calling so often. I did not want to be a burden. Holidays came. I cooked like always. I set the table for 3. Then slowly, I set it for 1. They started spending holidays with her family. I told myself that was normal. That was how families grow. But no one tells you how families shrink too. One evening, I invited them for dinner. I cooked his favorite meal, the one he loved as a child. They arrived late. They stayed for less than an hour. She checked her phone often. He avoided my eyes. When they left, the house felt colder. I stood at the door long after it closed, listening to the silence. Months passed like this. Short visits, fewer calls. One day I heard from a neighbor that my son had moved houses. He did not tell me. I found out by accident. That night I cried quietly, not loudly, just enough to let the pain breathe. I asked myself where I went wrong. Did I love him too much? Did I hold on too tightly? I replayed every moment in my head. I remembered when he was sick and I stayed awake all night, when I skipped meals so he could eat, when I sold my jewelry to pay his fees. And now I could not even get a proper conversation. I tried once to tell him how I felt, just once. I said softly, "I miss you." There was a pause. He replied, "Ma, you worry too much." That sentence stayed with me longer than he did. After that, I became quiet. I watched other mothers with their sons. laughing, sharing meals. I smiled for them, then came home and sat alone. Sometimes I talked to his old photos. I told them how proud I still was, how much I missed the sound of his voice. I did not blame his wife. I blamed life. I blamed time. I blamed myself for expecting too much. One rainy afternoon, I received a message. It was from him. "Ma, can you come over? I need to talk." My heart raced. I took the first bus I could. When I arrived, he looked tired, older somehow. We sat at the table. The same silence sat between us. He finally spoke. "Ma, I know I haven't been around." I waited. He looked down and said, "Marriage changed things. I didn't realize how much I was hurting you." He said, "I thought you were strong. I thought you didn't need me anymore." That hurt more than he knew. I looked at him and said softly, "I was strong because I had to be, not because I wanted to be alone." He did not speak. He just nodded. In that moment, I realized something painful, but true. Children grow, lives change, and sometimes love becomes quiet instead of loud. I also realized I had forgotten myself. I had made my whole world about him, and when he stepped away, I had nothing left. That day, I did not ask him to change. I did not beg. I simply said, "I will always be your mother, but I am also a person." Today, my son calls more often. Not every day, but enough. I still feel lonely sometimes, but I no longer feel invisible. I have learned that loving someone does not mean losing yourself, and raising a child does not mean owning their future. If you are a parent listening to this, remember this. Love deeply, but live fully. Children grow into their own lives. That is not betrayal. That is life. And if you are a child listening, remember this. Your parents grow old waiting for your voice. Sometimes a small call means more than you know. Some bonds stretch, some change, but love, when real, never truly disappears.